Hey everyone! In this video we're going to cover one thing, showing hearts at the top right of the screen, right here. We'll have hearts we can pick up in the next video, and if you want a head start on that, it's the exact same logic as the key we made in the last episode. But we're going to expand on the pickup code a bit, so the hearts are going to wait until then. Quick note, text tutorials are getting released very soon. I have the first one on Google Docs, which you could check out in the description, but soon I'll have a dedicated page for them. You're already on episode 10 of the website, so you might not care, but I'll say in a video when they're caught up to where we are now. Also, all of the old Zelda sprites have been replaced with new sprites by Andrew Glubrecht at retrodragon.com, which I linked below. Sorry for the inconsistencies between what's in the videos and what I have in the description, but I'm keeping Nintendo from suing my pants off. Anyway, let's get started. So, we're gonna spend all our time in the HUD scene here. We need a new sprite called Hearts. Its texture is going to be this 5-frame texture that's in the description that you're gonna have to put into the UI folder. So, bam, set the H frames to 5. So, with this texture, the frame indexes also signify how many quarters of heart there is. So let's move this to 99 and 4. So what I mean by that is this is frame 0. So there are 0 quarters of a heart there. Frame 1, 1 quarter, frame 2, 2 quarters, frame 3, 3 quarters, frame 4, 4 quarters, full heart. So that's going to help in the script in a little bit, but set the frame to 0 and go to the Hud Script. So first thing I want to do is I want to replace this. We're going to have onReady var player equals that, and that's just going to be called player. And yeah, because we're going to use player a little bit in this episode. So we're going to have 2 constants. The first one is going to be heart row size and will equal 8. The second one will be called heart offset and also equal 8. So the heart row size is how many hearts are in one row before the hearts are drawn to the next row. And then heart offset is how far apart one heart will be placed after the last one. So our hearts are 7 by 7, so it's gonna be 8 and it'll leave 1 pixel next to it before the next heart is drawn. So now we need a ready function. Function ready. So for I in player max health, we're going to create, using this for loop, a sprite for however much health the player can have. So if the player's max health is 3, we're going to create new 3 new sprites right here. So new heart is sprite new. We could make a new scene and instance these, but this is faster. So the new heart's texture is going to be our heart's texture. So if you ever want to change how which texture is used, just you just have to set that one sprite. And new heart H frames, also going to be 8 frames. It's always going to be 5, but whatever, consistency. And then hearts add child, new heart. So the main thing this heart sprite up here is going to do is hold all of these new sprites. We could have added an array and iterated through that, but this is the same thing and we could handle the positioning through here too. So now, process function. Like I just said, we have to iterate through all of the hearts in get children. So for heart in hearts get children, first thing we're going to do is get the index of each heart. So new variable index equals heart get index. This will tell us which place the heart in this iteration is, like if it's the first or second or third or so on, that heart. And yeah, now we gotta do a tiny bit of math, and I'm really bad at math, so I'll try to explain this as best as I can. So create a new variable called x. This is going to equal, in parentheses, index, and then % heart row size, and parentheses times heart offset. So the % represents modulo. This will divide index by heart row size, and then it'll return the remainder. That's what modulo does. So this handles the positioning of the heart on the same x position regardless of its row. In our case, in the row size of 8, let's just use, for instance, heart 3 and heart 11. We want them to have the same x value. So heart 3 will divide by heart row size and return, and that will equal 0 with a remainder of 3, so it'll return the 3, and then multiply it by the heart offset, and that's going to be its x position. Same thing with heart 11. Divide by heart row size, and this one will equal, it'll have 1 remainder 3, but it's just going to worry about the 3, and it'll have the same x position. It'll be in a different row with the y variable, but they'll be spaced correctly on the same x. So let's do that y. This is going to have the same idea, except divided by heart row size times heart offset. So the first 8 hearts will be on row, technically row 0, and it won't multiply this at all. So right here, and then the next ones will be divided by 8, and then it'll be 1 times 8, so it'll be moved down here. And yeah, so now we just have to set the position. This heart's position will be vector 2 x, y. So if we run the game, we should have 2 empty hearts, because I think our player's max health is 2. Yes. Cool. So that works, and we'll play around with the other. I'll show what the other stuff does in a second, but right now let's just have it draw the correct frames. So we need a new variable called last heart, and this will equal floor player health. That's why we got the player node from up here. So this is just going to find the sprite that corresponds with the player's current health. So all of the sprites after last heart is going to have the empty frame, this one, and all of the ones before the last heart is going to have the full frame. The last heart is just what we have to do the special logic with to get the quarters or halves or whatever it has to be. So let's make a few if statements. If index is greater than last heart. So if this heart in the rows of hearts comes after the last active heart, we're just going to set its frame to 0. Show an empty heart. Now if index is the last heart, this one we have to do a tiny bit of math. Heart frame equals parentheses player health minus last heart times 4. So what this does, it'll take whatever fraction of a health the player is currently at. So let's say, for instance, the player's health, he's supposed to have 5 hearts and 3/4 of one more heart. So the player's health is 5.75. So we'll subtract 5, which is floor player's health, and then we'll get 0.75, so we know exactly how many quarters of a heart this active heart has to be. And then we'll multiply it by 4, which will leave us with frame 3. 0.75 times 4 is 3. And this is frame 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, which is also 3/4 of a heart. And it'll work. And same thing for the other stuff. If the player's health is 5.5, it'll subtract 5. times 4, that'll be frame 2. So yeah. Last one's going to be if it's less than the last heart, and that's going to set it to frame 4, which is 4 quarters, 4 quarters of a heart, which is the full heart. So now if we run it, it should be full. Yep. And now if we go up here, I have these frozen right now, I just set their speed to 0, and we walk into the enemies, they should take full hearts. Yep. So now that we messed around with all the heart stuff and 1 damage equals 1 heart, I want to go back and change some of our damage values. And I also want to change the player's max health to show what a full thing of hearts looks like. So we'll do the damage stuff right now. I just wanted to show what the rows and stuff work like. So that works. After 8 hearts, which is the heart row size, it'll use this y variable stuff and then set it to the next row. Oops. And we can play around with this a little bit. So maybe in your game you have bigger sprites and you want it to show 3 or something like that. It'll do that. So it could be whatever you want. Offset works similarly. If we wanted to be more scrunched, or if our sprites are smaller, it'll look like that. And yeah, that's basically the gist of all the positioning code. But let's change the Stalfos damage. Just for now, we're gonna set it to 0.25 because I want to show how the quarters, or that the quarters work. And let's also change the sword. We want this to be 0.5, and that's what it's always going to be set as, at least for my videos. Do whatever you want. But, and then the entity max health by default will be 1, and I think the Stalfos is already yeah, so that just carries it from the entity code, so he has 1 health now. So let's try hitting them and getting hit by them. So now they should take 2 hits still. Yep. And now if we walk into them, we're taking quarter hearts. And let's just do 3/4 hearts just for fun. That still works. And yeah, it could be whatever, but Stalfos are supposed to have 0.5. Yeah, and the HUD will, so our HUD could only fit 16 hearts with a row size of 8, but it could be whatever you want for your own game. This video is not, this video, if you're using this for something totally different from Zelda, it still all applies. And I'm going to have a separate standalone video on doing hearts and stuff, just so people won't be scared of a episode 10 in a series, because this is universal. The only thing that it's checking from anything else is the player's current HP, but you know, you can set that to whatever. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna do for this video. Like I said earlier, the next video is gonna cover pickups like hearts and rupees, and we're also gonna make those 2 pickups plus the keys we added in the last video able to be picked up with the sword. We have to move it into a different script because the sword, and if we add the boomerang or hook shot in this series, they're gonna be able to mess with pickups, so we need it to be all standardized. For the last couple minutes of the video, I'd like to say what the current plan for this series is. The next 10 or so videos are just going to focus on mechanics that are needed to build a dungeon. So it'll have maybe 3 different enemies, a new item The bow is what I currently have planned. A boss fight and some different puzzle stuff like switches and different doors that close with enemies and whatever. It'll be a simple dungeon, but there'll be enough content to make like, you know, a 15-30 minute experience using only the stuff taught here. And of course, you could take these concepts and build more content off of it. So you know how to build an enemy, now you just have to do your own logic if you want to make your own. Once the dungeon is complete, I'll have the full source released to the public, because right now it's currently a $10 Patreon bonus. And after that, the series will still continue, but we'll be focusing on different aspects of the game, like dialogue and NPCs and whatever. This series is going to be as long as until I get bored of it, honestly. As long as you guys keep following it, it'll more and more start being like a Zelda game. There's no planned end to it. It's not going to be like, oh, a simple Zelda prototype and then you could build your own stuff off of it. Well, kind of like that, but it's going to be, once I start running out of important features that need to be there, there's still going to be like, oh, and this is how you'll make this item, just different content stuff. After a certain point, you'll start knowing how to do it by yourself and won't need to follow this so exactly, but it'll keep going. And you could come back to it on your own projects to see, oh, how do I make the boomerang? But right now the plan is just to get this dungeon out, and at the end of, I'm just saying that I'm trying to separate this into different quote-unquote seasons. Season 1 is the dungeon, and at the end of each season you will get a nice chunk of source code to look at too. Last thing to cover, Patreon. Big thanks to the Sire for becoming my latest $10 patron. We reached the text tutorials goal, and the first one's out, and I'll put it in the description. As of today, we're at $61 a month. Right now, the next goal is at $100 and it's going to be a new series, but I'm going to do a new series regardless, so I'm still thinking of better ideas for $100. I also had to figure out what I want to do for 1,000 subs, which is coming up real soon. Yeah, and so now that text tutorials are coming out, keep in mind that if you're a $5 patron, you get those tutorials 3 days early, and they are released the same day videos are released. Right now I'm still catching up to the videos, so I'll have more announcements on that. Alright, yeah, I'll stop talking. Next video should hopefully be in a couple days, so I will see you then.